Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 776, and today's date is September 26, 2015, and the title of this episode is The Current Economic Collapse News Brief. Let's get right into the economic collapse news. We're going to head right out to Greece right now, and we understand that Greece, they have been bailed out by the central bankers. The government turned on its people who didn't want this deal, and we know they're imposing austerity taxes on the people. And right now, the economy minister came out and said that the Greek economy is going to contract now by 2%. So we understand and we know that when these central bankers loan the money to the government, it does not go to the people. It goes to the creditors. It goes to government official pockets. And basically the people are left out in the cold. In Japan, what we're seeing is a complete disaster scenario. Japan right now is heading into another recession, which we really call a collapse situation here. But President Abe, he's out there saying that he's going to create a strong economy, and it will be his top priority. He's looking for 20% economic growth. I mean, these leaders at this point, they're using all the propaganda they possibly can use to convince everyone that everything is going to be fine. And he promises 20% economic growth when their economy has gone nowhere for years. Massive, massive amount of money creation, or I should say currency creation. And he's saying that there's going to be a higher birth rate and everything is going to be fine because the population is going to grow. Well, right now, Japan is heading for a quintuple dip recession. And the aging population right now is decreasing. The older people and the younger people basically aren't keeping in sync. And the younger people coming up aren't enough to keep this entire economy going. And what we're seeing right now is that the number of people younger than 65, there's just not enough of them. And their whole entire economy is falling apart. This is a dream and propaganda all mixed into one to give people hope. But guess what? It's not going to work. It hasn't worked. I mean, if we look at the population for the number of people younger than 65 for each person over 65, and we go back to 1961, we see it's at 300%. 1971, it dropped to 250%. 1981, 200%. 1991, we're looking at 100%. If you notice, the trend is down. 2001, 50%. 2011, 0%. They're predicting 2021, negative 50%. His plan is not going to work. Now, Yanis Varoufakis is out there, and he's saying all this austerity was a complete cover story for conducting class war against the poor. And an economics professor who served on the Greece's finance minister also said the same exact thing. Yes, this is what we are seeing. It is pretty much a war against the middle class and the poor. Yanis Varoufakis noted simultaneously that reductions in taxes on the wealthy and cuts to spending on Social Security amounted to a redistribution of wealth away from the poor to the rich. Corporation tax was also reduced dramatically, but at the same time, VAT and flat tax has gone up, and that affects the everyday person. And that's what this is all about. This is about keeping the people down, bringing in more wealth to the wealthy, because they realize that this whole system can't be maintained the way it is. So they might as well get as much as they possibly can before the whole thing implodes. And who cares what happens to the people? Because they know what's going on. Harry Dent is out there. He is saying this next wave down is going to be the great crash. He says it looks like this bubble may finally be peaking. And we know that we have a huge amount of bubbles. Treasury bond bubble, derivative bubble, automobile bubble, student loan bubble, stock market bubble, housing bubble, you name it, it's all bubbles. If we go back in time, Dow Transports peaked in late November and are down 20% since. Dow Utilities peaked in late January and are down 18%. The German DAX and the British FTSE both peaked in April and are down 24 and 19%. Dow and SP 500 appear to have peaked in late May. Then we saw China's Shanghai Composite. That crashed 42%. The Russell 2000 Index also peaked in June and now is down 12%. And finally, our NASDAQ, which peaked in late July, is down 21%. All of this right now, he's saying, is the first warning sign. Another warning sign came in September 11th. Adam Odell, their chief investment technical analyst, got a broad sell signal alerting that, at least for now, the bull market is completely over. For now, we are still in the classic crash season. And that season lasts from mid-August to mid-October. During this time, the markets are most likely to make large movements down. We've seen it in 1973 to 1974, 1982, 1987, 1990, 2001 to 2002, 2008, and 2011. And here we are right now. We're seeing the same exact thing occur. And we know that eventually this system that we are in today is not going to go much further. We are seeing similar or almost exactly the same things that we saw back in 2008. But this time it is much, much worse. Remember back then, people had jobs, people owned homes, they were able to refinance their home, take some equity out of it. Well, the American people, we know they don't own the homes. We know that people don't have those full-time jobs. We know that these numbers of unemployment, GDP, housing, retail are all completely fake and phony. A lot of people lost their credit. A lot of people lost their wealth saving, their wealth, their retirement funds. So when this hits this time, it's going to be much, much worse. Now we know the U.S. is continually pushing their agenda because they do believe when this comes crashing down and they blame it on some other country or group, they're going to restart the whole thing, and they want it the way they want it. And that is complete control of the people. And they keep pushing Common Core out to everyone in the United States. But what's very interesting about this, the Education Secretary, Arne Duncan, first of all, he's not even an educator. He majored in sociology. And he went to a private school called University of Chicago Laboratory Schools. And this school is from pre-K all the way up to 12th grade. And his children are going to attend this school. Actually, Obama's children, when he lived in Chicago, attended the school. Rahm Emanuel, his children attended the school. And what's so interesting about this school is that, first of all, it's expensive. Second of all, their whole thing is about nurture an enduring spirit of scholarship, curiosity, creativity. And the one thing they don't abide by is what the public schools are doing today. It does not follow the key school reform policies that the education department, Arne Duncan's department, who created Common Core, who says that everyone should be using it, these are the new standards. Well, guess what? They don't use it in this private school. Now, here we are once again with our leader saying, this is good for you, but we're not going to use it. They did this with Obamacare. All the government employees, the president said, Obamacare is great, everyone should have it. And then they exempted themselves. Here, Common Core, and this is the head of who's the education secretary, saying, yes, these are the standards. You should be happy with them. They're much better. They're going to make your children smarter, which we know this is completely fake, phony, and false. And everyone should be happy with it. And then they go off and they send their children to a private school that doesn't adhere to these standards whatsoever. They're on different standards because they probably looked at them and said, we're not doing this. And we see this time and time again, not just with this, but with the First Amendment, with the Second Amendment. They always seem to push things on the people, and for them, it's always different. Now, we understand that the U.S. government wants to control the internet. And we see right now that the UN wants to tell governments of the world how to censor the internet. Well, we knew this was the first step when the agency decided to take over the internet. Obama said this was a good thing. It could be regulated right now, and we knew this was not a good thing. But the United Nations proposed a radical, provocative policy changes for both government and social networks, effectively projecting a whole new vision for how the internet will work. Under U.S. law, the law that, not coincidentally, governs most of the world's largest online platforms, intermediaries such as like Twitter, Facebook, they can't be held responsible for what people do on them. But the United Nations proposes both that social networks proactively police every profile and post, and that government agencies only license those who agree to do so. So now you're going to have to get a license. These companies have to get a license. So if, they're saying that people are being harassed online, women are being harassed online, everyone's being harassed, and the solution is to censor everything and license the speech. So there are parameters in the license that you receive, just like, the television. Again, they're under control of an agency, and they're allowed to say certain words. They can't say certain things. They can't show whatever they want to show. So political and governmental bodies need to use their licensing prerogative and only grant licenses to those telecoms and search engines that supervise content and its dissemination. So what are we seeing here? We are seeing that they're going to control and censor the internet. This has been their plan for a long time. And why are they doing this? Because right now, the internet is completely open. It's like the Wild West. And they don't like that people can go on there, show different videos, photographs, and talk about anything. Especially things that don't match up to the government propaganda. And this is why they want to control everything at this point. Now, out in Ukraine, we understand that they are imposing sanctions on Russia. They pretty much decided that 2 airlines cannot fly over the Ukraine, and Russia right now is going to retaliate against these type of sanctions. What they're going to do, we don't know yet, but they said something is coming because this is ridiculous and uncalled for at this time. Russia, Iran, Iraq, and Syria, they've agreed to establish a joint information center in Baghdad to coordinate their operations against the Islamic State. That's right. A coalition to go after the terrorists. Completely different and separate than the United States and that coalition. This is going to pose a problem. So the main goal of this center will be gathering, processing, and analyzing all the information about the situation in the Middle East. And we know what's going to happen. They're picking up all the intel, finding out where all the troops are for the proxy army, which is the Islamic State, which is created by the United States government central bankers, and they will eliminate them. And once they eliminate them, there's no reason for the United States to be in the country. Right now, Assad is using the Russian jets. They've launched airstrikes above Aleppo's eastern countryside, hitting specifically the Islamic State and nobody else, no infrastructure. And they're hitting them hard. Now, it would look kind of suspicious if all of a sudden the Islamic State received, ground-to-air missiles. That would be kind of strange. Where did they get them all of a sudden? But I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden they come by them. We see that the U.S.-trained Syrian rebels just handed over trucks, ammo to Al-Qaeda. Now, CENTCOM denied this report, saying, no, it didn't happen. But then they came out and said, yes, this might have happened. They might have handed over all this equipment. Well, they've been doing this for a very long time. They've been handing over all of this equipment because, as we know, the trained Free Syrian Army is really the Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, and whatever other terrorist organization you want to throw in there. Because the whole purpose of this is to create confusion, to have the proxy armies to go after Assad. This is the main goal at this point. And Putin now is pushing back. The United States is looking at Russia, of course, just saying Russian aggression, Russian aggression, Russian aggression. And pretty soon, this whole thing's going to come to a head. Now, which way is it going to turn? This is the big question. Will this be the start of World War III? Will the U.S. back down? They might back down at this point, but as we know, they never give up. Because once the Islamic State is eliminated, because this is the goal of Russia, of Syria, of Iraq, of Iran, is to get rid of the Islamic State. The goal of the United States is to have the Islamic State remove Assad. And if they remove the Islamic State, the coalition forces, the U.S. forces, need to remove themselves from Syria. And I don't think the U.S. is going to let this happen. Right now, I am most positive there is Plan X right now going forward to make something happen before Russia, Syria, Iran remove the Islamic State. Because let me tell you, it's not going to take 6,000 bombings to get rid of them. It's going to take a few. They have highly advanced weapons that are very specific, focused on a target, and they already have the intel of where they all are. This will not last long. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.